and welcome to the Pinfall. Today we have a different type of podcast. This is episode 16 of the Pinfall, and we thought we'd give our listeners a chance to ask us some questions. As always, we ask you to get involved on Twitter and Instagram, email and post, and the response was incredible. Thank you so much for all your questions. Unfortunately, we can't get through all of them, but I think this is definitely something that we'll try and do again. Right, let's get to the bag of questions. Well, the first one we got asked the most was just to say a little bit more about ourselves, really. So I'll start us off. As you know, my name is Wilbz, the host of the Pinfall, 34 years old. I'm married to the wonderful wife, Mrs. Wilbz. We've got 2 children. My daughter's 4 and my son will be 1 in April. He was born last year on the day of Wrestlemania Night 1. So he come home from hospital first night, watched Wrestlemania Night 2 with me. Absolutely love my family and my friends. And I'm a massive Fulham fan. Absolutely love Fulham. Been seeing to get older for, I don't know how long. Too long, I think, based on this season. But yeah, so that's me. I'll pass you on to Barnsey.
Yeah, pretty much the same as Wilbz. I'm slightly younger, 32, but yeah, love family, friends. Got a couple of kids, about to have another one. And just in terms of wrestling, pretty much love wrestling since I was about 8 or 9. Collected the videos, the DVDs. Even used to record every single Raw and SmackDown on Sky Sports and then send them round to Wilbz's house, who would label them up for me. They're still actually in my garage now. It's quite a nice little memento to go and have a look at now and again. And then yeah, just been loved doing this podcast since we started off back in the last year, like for real. But obviously, you know, seeing if we could actually commit to it throughout the early part of the year. And just yeah, I just think I just embrace wrestling a lot more now. Like I used to, you know, keep it secret from a lot of my friends that I actually even liked it, and now it's part of the conversation when we're out, and you know, people are like, oh, when you know it's coming up to WrestleMania season, people know, so you get a little bit buzzing with, you know, people that are just casual fans, and yeah, just love wrestling, and that's me.
And then yeah, I'm Jordan. I am turning 30 the night of the Elimination Chamber. Oh, what a night! I live with my partner Laura, who will not be listening to this at all. And Barnsey is my older brother and probably the influence of why I am here. And yeah, ever since a young age, since Barnsey started watching it, I've been sort of sitting there having to watch it too because, well, he's got control of the TV remote. And yeah, got into it and haven't really looked back, and like Barnsey said, I just embrace it more now. I love all the storytelling, and yeah, it'd be strange not having wrestling in my life. Big Spurs fan, as is Barnsey, as we're both season ticket holders, which is extremely stressful. So we don't talk about it as much this season, but when we get to more winning ways, we will. But yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Nice one. Well, like I said, the post bag is bulging. I've got so many questions here to ask, but we had some questions from some VIPs. So they're going to get the first 3 questions. The first one was from my wife, Mrs. Wilbz. The first question she wanted to know was, who's the best wrestler to never win WrestleMania? Because I think she thought WrestleMania was like a trophy that you won at the end of the night. But the second question was, who do you think is the most underrated male and female wrestler? Who wants to start us off on that one?
I will probably jump in with Sami Zayn, because we are the Sami Zayn club. And yeah, for me, he should be at least a world champion now from what he did on NXT. And then for the women, that one, yeah, it's a bit more tricky. I'll throw it back to your male one first.
Yeah, Sami Zayn's a good choice. I'll probably go with someone like The Miz, just to be different to what you said with Sami Zayn. Obviously, he's not been a world champion for pretty much a decade now, but when he had that run, he was, you know, really good. He's got such a good character, and he's managed to stay at the top throughout his, you know, wrestling career. I just wish he was elevated slightly more, and I'm hoping that he's going to get a big opportunity of having this Money in the Bank contract. So I'll go with The Miz for male.
For male, I want to just throw two names into the hat. If that's all right. Sami Zayn, I do agree with, but he has been the Intercontinental Champion. So I'm going to say Chad Gable because I think he is awesome, and he's just in a stupid segment at the moment with Otis. So I'm going to say him. And even though he has been a US champion before, I'm going to say Ricochet as well because he is also so good and just not getting used very well at all on Raw. So they're two that really stand out for me on the male side. On the female side, to kick us off, I'm going to say Dana Brooke because I think she's good and she never really gets anywhere near any of the titles really. So I'll say Dana Brooke.
For my female, I'm going to go Sonya Deville because I think she's an excellent wrestler, but she's sort of been, and now she's come back. She looks like she's got more of a non-wrestling role, which is a bit of a shame. But I'm hoping that sort of turns back and she gets some good singles opportunities because she was very good on NXT when she was down there.
Yeah, I completely agree with the two you've picked, actually, Sonya Deville and
Dana Brooke.
Dana Brooke, yeah. Really good. Yeah, they're I don't think I can beat them choices, to be fair.
I thought Jordan might have said Peyton Royce, as he's a big fan of Peyton Royce.
Yeah, but... I know. Nearly.
Okay, the next question from another VIP is from Barnsey's fiance. She wants to know, will you ever do the washing up? No, she's got a two-part question here. The first part of the question is, what is your favourite WrestleMania match? And the second part was the matches you want to see at this year's WrestleMania. So let's start with the first part of it. What's your favourite WrestleMania match?
I think when I think of WrestleMania match, I just automatically think of WrestleMania 17 and just the card, really. We saw, obviously, pretty much the end of the Attitude Era with The Rock against Austin in the main event. Triple H against The Undertaker, just an iconic match. And two matches that have only ever had 3 appearances, like trilogy fights at WrestleMania, them two. So it was pretty big for them to fight. Obviously, it had the first ever TLC match as well. So in terms of card, I just always think of WrestleMania 17, and I probably do think of Austin against The Rock as being my favourite WrestleMania match, just because that was when I was probably the most into wrestling that I've ever been. Like, I was literally like, oh my God, I love these guys.
Yeah, I'm the same. Rock and Austin by far my most favourite WrestleMania match ever. I don't think anything's ever topped it or nearly come as close. Just for the whole match and the storytelling behind it all and the selling of JR when Austin turns is just, it's just so good. And yeah, by far one of my favourite matches ever.
Yeah, for me, I'd say Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25. I do agree, Rock and Austin, WrestleMania 17 was probably be on my list as well, but Taker, HBK, WrestleMania 25, really good match, perfect match. So the second part of Barnsey's fiance's question was matches you want to see at this year's WrestleMania. I'm happy to start the ball rolling on this one. So for me, I'd like to see Edge take on Drew McIntyre. It looks like it's probably going to be Roman Reigns, but I'd like him to fight Edge. And then that leaves Reigns to face Seth Rollins.
Yeah, I mean, for this year's Mania, I think there's so much potential. I actually don't know who Edge is going to pick. And I've seen on the rumour mill recently that, talking of trilogy matches, we could see Roman Reigns fight Brock Lesnar. Especially if there's going to be a crowd in Tampa. So there's a lot of matches that we could definitely see this year. I mean, one match I'm just itching to see is Belair against Sasha Banks for the women's title. Yeah, that for me is probably the number one match I want to see. If I had to have like a dream match for this year's WrestleMania, it would probably be another female match. It would be Becky Lynch against Ronda Rousey. That's just one that I would love to see at some point down the line. I don't think Becky's going to be making a return for this year's Mania, but potentially next year's Mania if Ronda Rousey's fit and around and wants to do battle. I think that's just got so much potential.
I'll go for Reigns versus Cesaro. Cesaro recently, I just want to see him get a shot at the Universal title, and if them two at Mania happened, it would just be absolutely money, and one I'd definitely love to see.
For the Raw Women's title, I was thinking about this one, and I think I'd like to see Asuka defend against Baszler, Flair, and Rhea Ripley, because it'd almost be like probably the 4 best NXT sort of champions. So it'd be a good way of getting the 4 women on a card in a big match.
I mean, mate, I
Cool,
thought you were... Go on.
I was just going to say, pick a winner out of that 4. Jesus, that'd be an incredible match.
I thought you were just going to say Asuka versus Flair, and I'd have been settled with that. But adding the other 2 in there as well, jeez, that is some card. That is.
Yeah, you got to stack it up for WrestleMania.
Yeah.
The next VIP question we've got is from Jordan's girlfriend. She wants to know, who do we think will be the next Grand Slam champion?
Well, I mean, it started off as Grand Slam, so, I was going to go for Djokovic. But after some rewording, I think the next or the most logical one will be Mr. AJ Styles if we're going for Grand Slam. The recent Grand Slam champion, I don't think he's been Universal champion, so he's 1 away, so I'm playing with the odds.
Yeah, I was going to say Sheamus, because he only needs the Intercontinental title, I believe, to get it. And I'd imagine he'll get that before he retires, so he's definitely got a good chance of getting that Grand Slam.
I'll say Finn Balor. I hope that, more for hope than expectation. I hope he can come back up to the main roster. I think just seeing his matches like recently on NXT, he's just propelled himself again. I know that he probably feels like he's at home now in NXT and he's not sort of travelling so much, but he could be doing that on the main roster for me, and he's just such a star.
Cool, right. The VIPs are out of the way now, so we're going to have happy wives, happy lives. So let's get into the post bag. Let's see which one we put out first. Okay, the first question is from Matt Harvey.
Oh.
Thank you very much, Matt Harvey, for listening and your question. The question is, if you could bring back any pay-per-view, what would you bring back?
For me, this is an easy one, and it would be the King of the Ring. I think recently it shows how popular tournaments are and how well they work. So bringing that back, I would also love to see an NXT twist on it where they have a King of the Ring fight pit, because I think that would be incredible. Just one night fight pit matches. So for me, King of the Ring.
Nice one. Next question we got is from Max Alisi. Thank you very much, Max, for your question. This is why don't you cover AEW on the Pinfall? Well, I'll take this one. I'll probably say there's 3 main reasons why we don't. The first one is there's already a lot of wrestling for us to cover as it is. I mean, we've got Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the pay-per-views, the documentaries on the network. There's so much already. The second reason, and the reason I sort of stopped watching it at the start, was because I felt that ITV was just too slow getting the content out. They were always promising it would come out on like a Thursday evening, and it was always like going into Friday, and by then you'd seen all the spoilers. So for me, that was another reason that I just sort of lost a little bit of interest. And the third reason, as I mentioned earlier, as I'm a Fulham fan, is Tony Khan. I'm sure if me and Tony Khan, we'd probably get on quite well. If we went for a few beers, we'd be talking all night. We've got a lot in common. But for me, Tony Khan, he's the director of football at Fulham. He's the co-owner of Jacksonville Jaguars, and he's also got this AEW position. So that's 3 full-time jobs. I don't know. As a Fulham for me sort of is coming first, and I just don't know how he can spread his time over these 3 jobs. It's like Vince McMahon also being director of football at like West Brom and doing something in the LA Galaxy or something. Do you know what I mean? It's just crazy. And for me, I just wish he'd just concentrate on one thing. And I actually wish he would just concentrate on the wrestling, because I think that's what he's probably best at doing, really. I think AEW have done some things good. Like I said, I watched it at the start, even though ITV was slow getting it out. And it appeared to be decent enough. I quite enjoyed it. And they handled the Brody Lee death really well. I watched the tribute show. That was really good. And they have got some really good wrestlers that we've seen from WWE, like Jericho, Rusev, The Revival. So I'm not ruling out that we'd ever not cover it. But at this moment in time, I think there's too much going on. And Tony Khan's has got to help a Fulham fan out.
Get out of Fulham.
Yeah.
Well said, Wilbz.
Yeah, sort us out. The next question is from Austin216. Thank you very much for your question. What is, in your opinion, is the best documentary on the WWE network?
Cool, yeah, I can answer this one pretty comfortably. It's without doubt The Undertaker: The Last Ride. I mean, watching that after they'd released The Last Dance, talking about the career of Michael Jordan, it was like WWE were like, hold my beer, here comes the next best sports documentary of the whole year. And that, it just gripped us for, 5 episodes? Just absolutely stunning content, behind the scenes footage. Unbelievable series that they put out. But yeah, notable other mentions for the Breaking Ground that they put on the network a few years back, documenting some of the NXT stars that we see today, like Baron Corbin, and a few others. But they also do like really, really good 24s, The Untold, The Day Of. I really enjoy it, the recent one at the Royal Rumble. So there's just so much good content and almost not enough hours in the day to keep up on top of it, really, especially with your weekly shows and takeovers and pay-per-views, like you said, Wilbz.
Yeah, definitely. Right, pulling out the next question. This one is from Matt Harvey again. Thank you very much, Matt, for your question. This one is, if you was Vince McMahon for a day, what's the first thing that you would change?
I mean, cool. I'm just having a quick think about this. I think I would bring up Undisputed Era to the main roster, but it's a little bit disappointing after just seeing the last takeover with what transpired at the end. I'm not sure that's a totally feasible thing now, but I'm just craving to see Adam Cole and the rest of the Undisputed Era really on the main roster.
Yeah, for me, I would just have him not worry about the viewership and the sort of short-term booking and let stories play out. Things change on a dime so quickly with him, and it's really annoying. He's just got to give him space to breathe and watch it unfold. And he may lose a few viewers that way, but in the long run, they'll come back in their droves. So that'd be definitely what I'd change.
Yeah, for me, I'd say promote tag team wrestling a bit more. It seems like Vince McMahon is not a fan for whatever reason, and I like Jordan said in one of the other pods, he's a fan of. We're both fans of tag team wrestling, and there's no reason why they should just be sort of treating it how they are. They've got 2 belts, so they might as well get some tag teams up and start promoting it better, and also more stables, which could also coincide with that, because it seems like there's not many really at the moment.
Yeah, I was just going to say another one that's just popped into my mind. I really want him to stop, having so many part-time guys that are on these like real short-term contracts and only turn up for like the big pay-per-views, like Goldberg just having a title match out of absolutely nowhere at the Royal Rumble. Yes, it's elevated Drew a little bit more, but he's already been the man for the best part of 2020. I'm not sure him, dismantling Goldberg in a couple of minutes really matters that much. And I just like it when there's a consistent wrestler and story being unfolded on like the weekly shows that then build up into a card, or just the progression of a wrestler that hopefully, like Jordan I think said earlier with Cesaro, it looks like he's getting a little bit of a run now going up to Mania hopefully, and hopefully there's some reward at the end for all the work that he's done, not just solidly recently but moving forward. So less part-time guys I think, and just more opportunity for some of the other guys who have given everything to the company for a longer period of time.
Nice one. Next question is from Matt Novak. Thank you very much, Matt, for your question. The question is, who do you think will be the breakout star by the end of the year?
Cool, I don't mind going first. I think after just watching TakeOver, it's fresh in the mind that it might not just be one person, but it could be a tag team, and it could potentially be MSK. I think we were already talking on the TakeOver pod about them, potentially at some point going up to the main roster just with, 3-4 performances that we've seen so far, and just the creative flair they're bringing to the ring, just the love in their style, their chemistry. There's so many good matches they can have. So I'll throw MSK into the hat like straight away.
I'll stick with NXT for my one. I was going to say Xia Li. I really like her new character, and I can see that maybe with some of the women maybe getting called up, she could be one. Maybe not to burst onto the main roster, but one I could see definitely around the NXT women's title. So I can definitely see her being a bit of a breakout star this year.
Yeah, I was just going to say, are we not going to entertain the idea of Bad Bunny? Rumble appearance. Looks like he's going to get a Mania slot. And there's a championship in between that as well. But I'm going to keep to NXT as well. And I think Cameron Grimes could be massive now after his recent investments. Honestly, he's like the modern day DiBiase, and I hope he they use him in that way where he just buys off refs, and he's definitely got the charisma to pull off something like that, and I would genuinely love to see it. And then for the main roster, I imagine just the way it's all going, Cesaro looks like he could have a big year, and he's sort of been big in tag teams, but hopefully this is his big singles run. Similar to Big E, I'm hoping it comes and he's shot right to the top of the card.
Cool. Next question is from Steve. Thank you much, Steve, for your question. It is, which superstar would you repackage immediately with a new character or gimmick?
Oh, it's got to be Seth Rollins, hasn't it, for me? I know he's sort of getting repackaged slightly now on SmackDown after seeing just a couple of episodes, but he's got to just burn it down and bring back the fun, the energy, just this Messiah gimmick. And if he goes on to create a slightly different version of that gimmick on SmackDown now, it just sort of sucks the life out of me when I see him come out now. And that's not the Seth Rollins I know and love and what he's got inside. And I would love for it to repackage Seth Rollins, to be honest. But if there was anyone else, I'd probably go for someone who's not really been on the TV too much recently, and that's Aleister Black. I just feel like he could be rejuvenated with a different gimmick, and it'd be nice if he got the opportunity to come back to the main roster and just, demonstrate some of the matches and skills that he showed in NXT. He was just such a big talent, and he's just been so wasted since coming up to the main roster.
For me, I'm clearing out all of Retribution. Get rid of the silly nicknames, mask, get rid of it all. They didn't really care about it. Just make them normal wrestlers again.
I'll pick a male and a female then. So for male, I'm going to say King Corbin. Because I think he's a really good wrestler, but I think this sort of King gimmick is... I don't know if I wouldn't say it's holding him back, but I think he could just do something a little bit fresher, really. So I'll say King Corbin for male, and for female, I'm going to say Nikki Cross. Because when she was in NXT, she was really good in Sanity. And now she sort of went into like the best friends with Alexa Bliss. And now I feel like she needs a new sort of character or gimmick to give her sort of another big push. So I'll say her.
Yeah, good choice.
Right, next question is from Nick Gulliver. Thank you very much, Nick, for listening and for your question. The question is, which WWE talent never got a big push? So he's asked for one from the past and one from the present.
Well, my one from the past, I know he got the Hall of Pain in the end, but Mark Henry, when he first come in, when you see the stature of the man, it's incredible he was never used as he was. I think he was sort of like in the Nation of Domination, then like that sexual chocolate with D'Lo Brown, and it wasn't until later in his career where the Hall of Pain come in, but I felt like he should have been used a lot more better, especially in his prime. Had it all, similar to like Angle, great wrestling background, went to the Olympics, and should have had more of a run at a younger age.
Yeah, so for my past one, I'm going to say Matt Hardy, because if you think back to like Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys, he was the only one who didn't get that sort of world title run. And he was just as talented as the other three. And for whichever reason, he never really got the push which maybe he deserved. So for past, I'll say Matt Hardy.
I'm going to say someone different as well. I'm actually going to say Kane. Although he was like a 12-time tag team champion, he held the hardcore title. He was a fair few champions in wrestling. But he was only WWF champion for one day. He held like the ECW title. But for someone who was not always in the main events of pay-per-views and on Raw and stuff, but not to have a title run of any magnitude for me is a little bit disappointing for someone that gave so much to the company over all them years. So I'll say Kane for past.
Yeah, just thinking about it as well, I probably would throw in some tag teams that have come up from NXT, which never really got a push at all. I mean, people like The Ascension, American Alpha, the Ford Villains, even like the Revival, who actually did win the titles, but never really got that push that they really deserved. Maybe we could say some tag team wrestling like from the previous 5 years. What about presently then? Who hasn't had the push they deserve?
For me, it would be Aleister Black. I mean, if you go back and watch what he was like on NXT, it's just criminal. He's never reached that on the main roster. And it's similar with, I know Nakamura had a WrestleMania match with AJ Styles, but both of them, just what they showed on NXT, I just can't believe they've never used that on the main roster properly.
Yeah, I think a couple of names that spring to mind to me are sort of guys that are on the fringe of potentially getting big shots, and that's someone like Big E and Cesaro. It looks like they're going to, start being in a little bit more main events, but neither have been a world champion. Again, they both just demonstrate such great wrestling ring craft, and they've got big personalities. They've done really good skits on Talking Smack recently, and just developing their characters slightly more. They've got such big followings with the fan base of WWE, and I just feel like they've given a lot to the company. They've both been majorly involved in tag team wrestling with title runs over the last few years. But for me, I'd personally love to see one of them two be given an individual title run, and just I'm hoping we're on the cusp of it now.
For me, I'll try and pick a male and a female. So for male, I'll probably say Andrade. He hasn't really had the push he deserves. Like NXT was on fire; it was so good. He did have the US title run, but it was sort of like a throwaway sort of title. He didn't really it wasn't sort of presented like, say, Bobby Lashley is. So I'd say Andrade from the males, and for females, I'm going to say Jordan's favourite, Peyton Royce, because they obviously split up the Iconics to what appeared to be to give her a push, and they haven't done anything with her really. So I think them two definitely deserve a push at some stage, and hopefully it happens soon. I just see Nick Gulliver's got a second question on this bit of paper, so we'll do this question as well. He's asked what our dream stable is. I don't know if it's from the past or the present, but interpret it how you like and tell us your dream stable.
Well, this is purely on just my favourite wrestlers, and if I could have a stable, I would have past and present. I would have HBK, Chris Jericho, Adam Cole, AJ Styles, and then just leave it as that. I think they could all work so well together as well, and they're just complete packages, mic, in-ring. Them four together would be incredible.
Yeah, that sounds that is literally mouthwatering. That is. I mean, I'll interpret the question as if it's like potentially, could happen now. And I'll also have AJ, and I'll chuck in a Moss on there because I think he's going to have something to offer as we move forward. And I'll go for Finn Balor too, with Rhea Ripley as like the female in the group, and I sort of want someone like a mouthpiece. I will go with a Miz. Stick the Miz in there.
Cool. I'll pick a women's one then. I think I'm going to pick 4 women that would give the 4 horsewomen a run for their money. So I'm going to put Rhea Ripley, Shayna Baszler, Dakota Kai, and Gonzalez.
Oh yeah,
because I think everyone wants to see the 4 horsewomen sort of team up, and you need to have another sort of stable who can go like head to head with them. So I think that'd be a decent women's stable there.
Yeah, book that one for Survivor Series, God.
Next question is from Rob. Thank you very much, Rob, for listening and for your question. It is, what's the best returning superstar moment?
Cool, this is one I don't really have to think about. It just instantly comes to my mind straight away, and that's the first Raw of 2002, where Triple H makes his highly anticipated return. And I think what's so special about this return is that everyone knew, like, it was advertised that he was going to be back, and just the build-up and just the anticipation of him returning, and then just the crowd reaction, the Jim Ross commentary, literally getting goosebumps thinking about it now. It was just such a phenomenal return for me, and yeah, it was just great that he obviously went on to feud with Jericho at Mania, and get his belt back. Just literally loved every single thing about that return, and it's something that if I was to look at a return now, I'd go back and watch that for sure.
For me, it's the Hardy Boys at WrestleMania. No one saw it coming, and you almost at that stage you thought they were pretty much done with WWE, or WWE was done with them, and then the New Day sell it well as if like they're kind of come down to the ring, and then just that music hits, and just there is not one wrestling fan who wasn't popping when that happened, and just an incredible moment.
Yeah, for me, it happened at Backlash 2000. It was Stone Cold Steve Austin coming back to sort of help The Rock win the title. Everyone knew that Austin was coming back, but they ran the story that they did something to his car or his truck, and they couldn't get to the arena. But you knew it was coming. But the crowd popped. It's probably one of the best ones I've ever seen, and it was so good. And it was at that time when I was still newish to WWE. And I loved, and even now I just love watching it back. So good. So I'll say that one.
Yeah, I think we picked some good ones there.
Yeah, we could also have said Edge, I guess, as well. Royal Rumble 2020, that was a good one as well. Next question out the bag. Let's have a look. Hey, this one is from Matt Novak again. Thanks for the question, Matt. Oh, it's a good one as well. It is. What is your Mount Rushmore of WWE? And he said the total package. So promo, in-ring, effect on the business. So I guess it's going to be different for all of us. Who wants to start us off?
I can go first if you want. I suppose when I think of Mount Rushmore of the WWE over the past, you're looking at, guys who just elevate the company. So I'd go with like someone like Triple H or, John Cena. He carried they've got everything, them two guys. I suppose the Mount Rushmore of WWE right now are the two WWE champions, I'd say, just the way that they're carrying both shows, and they have done for the past 6 months, coming up to a year. Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns just literally got it all. One heel, one face, just demonstrating to the rest of the world how to be, such amazing characters. Just talking about McIntyre first, just, his general, the sort of nice guy that he sort of possesses to be, and then just the way that he can just, turn it on in the ring and just become an absolute destroyer. Just his little cheekiness with the crowd and being able to talk to the camera, and just, his personality comes out in his character, and he seems like a really, cool person that you'd want to hang around. And then Reigns just redeveloping the heel character since returning. And what's so special about him is that, for me anyway, that before he wasn't deemed as being someone who was great on the mic, and now he's got Paul Heyman in his corner, and he still does 70% of the promos when they're in the ring together. And he's just, not only that, he's backing it up when he's in the ring. He's just had some incredible feuds, and them two guys at the moment just being at the top of the company, the Mount Rushmore, as Matt said, just they're the two that I think of immediately.
Okay, my all-time Mount Rushmore. So I'll start with Ric Flair, because I think back in the 70s, 80s, going around the territories before WWE was formed, and just being sort of one of the first real big stars in wrestling. So for that, he has to go on. Secondly, you may see it as a bit of a head scratcher, but I would say Vince McMahon, because wrestling wouldn't be what it is today without him. And then how many owners or new promotions try and rebuild the Vince McMahon character and get involved. Don Callis at Impact Wrestling now sort of doing it. He's got a lot of on-screen time, and all these ones want to sort of emulate what Vince McMahon done back in the day. And you can't have Vince without Stone Cold. Them two are the Attitude Era, what people deem the best part of wrestling, or the best era of wrestling was. Them two go hand in hand. Whenever you think about it, you think about their feud. From there, I would have Shawn Michaels. Countless wrestlers now, or getting into it, want to be him or be like what he was. And you can see that in people like Adam Cole, Ziggler, and many, many more. And then lastly, I would have CM Punk, mainly because after his pipe bomb, he changed the way promos were done. People do a lot more shooty sort of promos and sort of not helped get the indies on the scene, but he far and away changed the landscape of how promos could be done and making sort of shoots a lot cooler. So that would probably be my Mount Rushmore.
This is a question I think about quite a bit actually, and I've always got 5, and I need to get rid of one. So I'll put the bankers in first. So for me, banker HBK, best wrestler ever in my opinion. He is the best. So he's definitely on there. Followed by Stone Cold Steve Austin. Just the effect he had on the business for a start, the Attitude Era. He was just unbelievable. It's just so sad that he didn't get longer career really, but he's had some really good WrestleMania matches as well. If you think back from 13 up to 19, I think his last one was. So I'd definitely say Stone Cold Steve Austin. My other one, Kurt Angle for sure. He was one of my favourite wrestlers. He was on the Stone Cold show on the WWE Network, and he was saying that he probably wouldn't get into the Mount Rushmore of WWE, but I completely disagree. He was so good as a wrestler. He was good on them. He had everything. His first year in WWE was incredible, and he had just quality matches with everyone really. So I'll definitely say Kurt Angle. And my last one, it's always a tough one. It's between Triple H and The Rock, but I'm going to go for Triple H just for longevity and also what he's doing down at NXT as well. So they're my 4.
Interestingly, no one picked Taker. But
yeah, I think for character, definitely, but because it's for the total package. He was a good wrestler, but he's not. You could probably name 10 better wrestlers. Let's be honest, at least 10. Do you know what I mean? So it's tough because you can only pick 4. It was The Rock as well. I always liked to pick him because he was one who sort of got me into like WWE or WWF at the time because he was just electrifying on the microphone and he wasn't bad in the ring. Like no one said Hulk Hogan, but he was probably the one wrestler that everyone knew back in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah, there's so many good wrestlers over the years. I don't think we picked a wrong one there. It's a matter of opinion as well, and that's what's great about watching wrestling. Everyone's got their own opinion, and it's good we all form different ones there.
Yeah, and let us know yours as well. Like, give us a little tweet at the Pinfall Pod, and I just love hearing other people's like Mount Rushmores because it's just nice to see like who people sort of look at as the 4 greatest, really. So I think we've got time for one more. Let's pull this one out of the hat and see what our last question will be. Okay, Matt Harvey. Who will be the WWE Universal and Women's Champions in 5 years' time? So maybe let's just pick for 2 men, 2 women who we think in 5 years' time could be the champions. And I guess we should try and make it people who aren't champion at the moment.
Yeah, okay. I'll straight away. I think Adam Cole's about 31, so in 5 years he's going to be 36. And as a wrestler, I think you're in your prime. You look at the champions now. I think is Roman Reigns. He's about 35, and I think McIntyre's a similar age. So if I go on that basis, I'll go for Adam Cole, and I'm just putting him in there as well through hope as well as expectation. I just think he's potentially another Mount Rushmore that we can talk about once he retires from wrestling. So I'll chuck Adam Cole in there straight away.
I'm going to go with Karrion Kross. I think in 5 years he'll be up and, main event in Mania as a champion.
One I was thinking about the other day, who I was watching him wrestle, and I thought he'll be a really good singles competitor. And if he was in his singles, he could go and be a WWE champion, and that's Montez Ford. I think he's so good. He's so good on the mic. He's incredible in the ring. And he's doing great things with Street Profits, but I can't see any reason why he couldn't go on a singles run and become a champion, because I think he's got the total package. So
I love Montez.
Well, let's see in 5 years' time. And then what about for the women's side?
I think the females are a lot more difficult to predict just because, they are the ones that have the babies. So if they do have the babies, they're going to be off for at least a year, probably 18 months, 2 years. It'd be interesting to see how quickly we see Becky Lynch again. And that's why I think you see some of them return, like we saw Victoria at the Royal Rumble. And so this one's more difficult. So I think that I'd probably choose someone who is slightly younger, and I think someone who, potentially could win the belt this year and have a long sort of start of her career would be Bianca Belair for me. Yeah, obviously dating Montez Ford as well. Just dream couple, I think, in WWE, and WWE have got themselves hold of two massively talented stars that I think their careers are going to play out even more over the next 5 years. So I'll go Belair to start with.
Yeah, I had Belair. I think we saw, at the Rumble, the two future stars at the end of it, with Rhea being the other one. So Rhea as well, and then, I can't go a podcast without saying her, so Peyton Royce.
For me, I've mentioned her earlier, I think Xia Li, maybe. Hopefully this year she breaks out in NXT, and then it might only be a matter of time before she comes up to the main roster. I think she's got a very bright future. And maybe someone like Dakota Kai, I'm a big fan of hers. She's doing great things in NXT, so there's no reason why she couldn't be one who comes up and wins one of the big championships in 5 years.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get loads more talent. Like, who was it that NXT signed this week that they revealed on the takeover? The guy that used to be in Impact Wrestling.
Oh, Eli Drake. He's called like LA Knight.
LA Knight, yeah. So it'd be interesting to see, what new arrivals we get, and hopefully some amazing talent moving forward.
Nice one. Well, that's all we've got time for on today's Ask the Pinfall. Really enjoyed it, so hopefully we can do it again soon. Thank you to everyone who's sending questions. Once again, apologies we couldn't get through all of the questions. Hopefully, like I said, we'll do it again and some more questions will pop in. On the Pinfall, we've got Elimination Chamber next week, so looking forward to reviewing that one. And then we've got the Pinfall Rewinds, so we've got some WrestleMania stuff back on. Also, Fastlane and WrestleMania is on the horizon, so definitely a busy couple of months for the Pinfall and for the wrestling community. But that's it for today's show. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks for getting involved. Please remember to give us a review, give us a follow. And that's been the Pinfall. Ring the bell.